Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of The Democratic View. I'm the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and today I have two people with me, which is not a usual format. I have Mary Ellen Moeller, who is a colleague, a retired teacher, and Paul Fiondella. So I'm going to start with you, Mary Ellen. You're going to tell me a little bit about yourself, where you were born and raised and stuff like that. We like to know the vital statistics of people.
Okay, well, I was born in Southampton Hospital, and I'm from East Hampton. My family were original settlers here in East Hampton, the Parsons family, and of course that goes back to 1648, so I've been here in East Hampton a long time. Although I didn't teach here in East Hampton, I taught up Island, and I retired from South Country School District, which is Bellport.
Did you notice my mouth dropped open?
Yes,
Because if there is one thing I envy, it's people who were born and raised out here. It must have been unbelievable.
It certainly was, and things really changed over the years.
Yeah, I know. I went to Jamesport as a mere slip of a girl. And I do know how things have changed out in the East End. And Paul, how about you?
I was born in Connecticut and went to college in New York and started up a software company and came out to East Hampton in 1986.
So, well, you've been here a long time, too.
Yeah, it's a long time by certain standards, but by other standards, as you've seen with Marielle, it's just a blink of an eye.
All right. We'll never be able to compete with her on that. Well, I'm only here since 2002.
We call you come-heres.
Is that what you call me?
Yes.
What do we call you, Bonicas?
Yes.
Well, you're a very lucky group of people. And so let's talk a little bit about the committee that you guys were on. Was about aging and the aging population of East Hampton. I'm going to tell you one little incident that happened to me. I was at the library one day, and they were having an opera at Guildhall. Of course, the library is right across from Guildhall, and everybody was coming out. I could not believe the old people that were coming out of that Guildhall, and I sat there saying, wow, holy mackerel, are there any young people in this town? I mean, it was really amazing. So tell us how you got to be on this committee.
Well, Paul and I approached Supervisor Cantwell actually before he took office and suggested to him that he needed to appoint a committee to look at what services they would need to have for seniors in the future, 15 years beyond now, 20 years beyond now, and we recommended that he appoint a committee, and we recommended some institutions that should be a part of the committee as well as private citizens. And then when he took office, Kathy Burke-Gonzalez got a resolution together and appointed the committee with the people that we suggested it. And in March, that resolution was passed, and one of the things that we included in the resolution was that we would report back to the town board in 6 months. And we started work just as soon as the committee was appointed, which was in March, and we gave a report in December.
Like a true teacher.
Yes.
And so what were some of your findings that you did come up with?
Well, Paul, why don't you?
Go ahead, Paul.
First of all, it was to make people aware in government of the dimensions of the senior community as a component of the population of East Hampton. And so we did a lot of looking at statistics and whatnot. And the senior population in the town is really increasing at a very, very rapid rate. So the demand for services is going to, over the next 15 years, is going to become really, it's going to drive a lot of what happens in this town. You've seen some of it already. Like you were mentioning, when you go to an event, you see that there are a lot of older people there now. Well, if you take a look at the population, and I don't know if she can put up a chart there for us to take a brief look at, but if you...
Lena, can you put up that census population projections?
Let's see.
Go ahead, you talk about it
Okay,
anyways.
there it is.
Okay.
If you take a look at this, this chart, what you see is there's East Hampton is in blue and the U.S. is in red. And essentially what it shows is going on the horizontal scale, you have age groups, you know, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, so on and so forth, going all the way along. And going up the vertical axis, you have the percent of the population in each age group. So the first thing that's notable about this is you can see on the left side of the chart that East Hampton has a lower percentage of its population than the U.S. average in under the age of about 44 years of age. That means we have a much older population. As you see on the right side of the chart, you see that the blue now is much higher than the red. And that's the more or less the adult older population versus the U.S. So we're skewed toward older population to begin with in 2010. There is a box in the screen that shows the baby boomer generation, and they're the peak of the chart. And they're both the peak at the national as well as East Hampton. Just envision, okay, 15 years from now, that box moving to the right. So the population is going to bump up at the older end of the scale. And I don't know if she can put up the just this little piece of paper that I have here, but in general, the statistical situation is that the population in 2010, if you take a look at the 2010, we had 6,594 baby boomers aged 45 to 64 in 2010. We had 3,769 seniors over 65. We had 3,570 children aged 5 to 19. So you can see seniors and children were pretty balanced. There's this huge middle-aged baby boomer group. And in 2010, seniors over 65 were 17% of the total. Now the census has taken a look in 2013 at what's happening here. The number of children is going down. The number of seniors has gone from 3,769 to 4,585. So in 3 years, you've already had a tremendous increase because of the impact of the baby boomers. So then looking out at 2030 and trying to estimate what's the population going to look like, I did this calculation using death rates, and basically you should have something like 8,548 seniors over the age of 65 out of a population, if growth rates are constant, of 24,246. So in 2030, seniors 65 plus will be 35% of the total population. Double now, more than double now, more than double the school-age population. So to be reasonable and rational about what you're doing in town government, you've got to plan for this. You have to have the facilities in place. And one of the major recommendations of our group was that the town build a new community center with services for seniors as a priority.
And so how did that hit them? What did they say?
Well, Larry Cantwell, if you notice when he gave his State of the Town message, said in it, it was one of his priorities for 2015. And so he is really strongly behind this. This is one of his priorities. And we need to be thinking about this because he wants to replace the building now on Springs Fireplace Road and have a new community center that will serve not only the senior population, but the whole population of East Hampton. I think this is very important. My mother, who passed away several years ago, was one of the people that was on the groundwork of the center that's on Springs Fireplace Road. And she wanted that center because it helped to stimulate the mind. It gave them physical activity. It gave them socialization, and also supplied some medical needs then. So I'm really trying to follow in her footsteps. If you've ever been to the Springs Fireplace Center, you'll notice behind the parking lot is a small park. Have you seen that small park there?
I've only passed it by.
Okay, there's a small park there, and it's named after my mother, the Edith R. Parsons Senior Youth Park, because she did so much to get that senior center started. And we need to think of this aging population and what we're going to need in the future. And as Larry said, we need to have something replacing it. And this is one of the things that people need to think about. And if people in the audience that are listening have concerns or are interested in it or know someone, they need to get in touch with me and possibly talk to me about ways that we can get this a reality, or if a community group needs someone to speak about it at their community group, get in touch with me or Paul, and we'll be glad to talk to them. I do have an email address, and it is simply my full name, mariellamoeller@gmail.com. So if people want to get in touch with me, they can get in touch with me that way, or my phone number is in the book, and we can talk about it.
Go ahead.
One way to envision what a community center would look like is to think about what's happening with Southampton Hospital. As you know, they're going to rebuild the hospital, and it's going to be closer to the Shinnecock Canal and farther away from us. And if you're out in Montauk and you need to get to the hospital, you know what it's like during the summer with the traffic. So one of the priorities is to think about building a medical facility here in East Hampton that could handle, you know, emergency type situations, so that you don't have that delay in getting treatment that exists during the summer especially. It can take an awful long time to get even to Southampton Hospital or where it is. And as they move it farther away from us, you know, if we don't get a medical facility here with this huge senior population, then, you know, it could be very negative. So Larry's fully aware of this, and the idea is not to just replace the senior center with a senior center. The idea is to build a community center which has enough room so that you can have a medical facility located near it or on the same property. And also, we also have to consider senior housing. There are roughly 1,100 people in the town who live by themselves and are over the age of 65. And although Mrs. O'Brien, who died on Saturday at the age of 97, did a survey 11 years ago, and she really emphasized the need for the town to look at housing policy for seniors. We really have not done very much to deal with what happens when you no longer want to live in your home or can't live in your home. That portion of the population, here we have possibly, you know, 8,500 or 9,000 people in 2030 who are going to be over the age of 65. And how many of them will be able to live on their own in their existing large homes? We need to have an alternative in East Hampton for them where they can move to if they want to stay here. Which brings up the other issue for the younger people in the community, which is, you know, the older people in this community have an awful lot of resources and have been here for a long time, and they've done an awful lot for the community. What are we going to do for them in the future?
You know, I just wanted to, you brought to mind one of the great services that we do have, which will probably have to be extended, which is the busing situation. Now, I had my knee replaced, and I had to be picked up and taken to my therapist and then brought back. And I can't tell you how many times, first of all, the people who work at these jobs are unbelievable. They really are so helpful, how they would help me get into the bus when I was really first, you know, recuperating, and take my purse, you know, and I always have my bottle of water too, and I would see how they would pick up other people who would be shopping. You know, these were people who lived alone, who could no longer drive, one had a detached retina, you know, and stuff like that. They would take them to their door, bring their groceries in for them. I mean, it was truly amazing. You know, I've always been remiss in not getting up in front of the town board and saying what a great service this is, and we need to make sure that for the people as they age, that we continue on with this and perhaps even consider
Yes.
how we'll have to expand this kind of a service.
Yes, this is one of the things we did mention in our senior report, an increase in transportation for those that needed it. And we recommended some additional services be provided, along with the housing for seniors that was not subsidized, because many of the seniors are wealthy enough or have income enough that they don't need subsidies, but they do want to stay in the community because these seniors have been vital to the community and they want to still give back to the community. This is why we need a senior center, and we need to offer things that seniors can take part in and become part of the community but not move away from it.
And let me mention also, for the younger seniors, if you look at the younger end of the baby boomers are 50 years old now. Okay, they'll be 65 in 2030. The entire baby boom generation will be over 65 in 2030. The impact of having so many seniors on the medical system is going to be unbelievable.
Yes, you are
Montauk
so
lost
right.
its general practitioner. We're going to need, you know, physicians to live here. We're going to need services. So you can't deal with a huge unhealthy population. We have to keep people healthy. So one of the things we don't have right now, which we could have with a new community center, would be a more extensive recreational program with the idea of trying to take the 50 to 70-year-olds, getting them in the habit of being better physically fit so that they can better handle the aging process. That's a very important component that we just don't have now. If you try to go to a place like the Y, it's just jammed up to the gills.
Yes, I know.
You know, most of our facilities in town were built, you know, quite a few years ago now, and we're not prepared for this population. We don't have the programs. We're going to need the programs in order to keep the population healthy.
Go ahead.
Because, well, one of the things about medical services, you're going to find as a senior ages, they need more medical services. And if we can keep them healthy so they don't need these more medical services, it takes less money by the government to keep them healthy. So we should be looking to do this, have activities, a rec center, facilities within the senior center, yoga, exercises, especially geared for seniors.
And also there's educational programs that we're not able to offer right now. There are
Please.
cultural programs that we can't offer, music and other things. And there's no central facility. The town is very dispersed. If you're a senior and you want to do something, you have to travel around by car to all kinds of different places. You can't go to just one place.
That's why I'm going to Southampton Library for a class today.
Exactly.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I mean, and we used to have them at East Hampton. Now there's nothing available in East Hampton or Amagansett. It's like, what is this?
Exactly. And I think Larry Cantwell understands this. I'm not so sure the other member of the boards are member of the board are up to speed. But I do think that the seniors out there in the audience, I mean, you know, you've got the votes, and basically if you start to speak up, the political system will respond. We need to move this as a priority in the capital budget to the top of the list, not to the bottom. We don't need to build another town hall. I keep hearing that's a priority. We don't need more town halls. We've got enough town halls. We ought to use technology to cut down on our expenses, you know, not build some more offices. But we do need facilities like this, and if we don't build them, if we wait too long to address these problems, then we won't be able to cope with these problems. And I think that the kind of East Hampton that would exist in 2030, if the middle class left because there were no facilities that they considered to be adequate as they aged, that would have a very severe impact on this community. So we should be, if you're a senior out there, you should be getting excited a little bit about this. This is an election year, and you should mention to your own experiences to the people who are running for office so they're aware of what our needs are.
Well, since I'm on the screening committee for the Democrats, I certainly am going to mention this to those who want to run, that they need to be aware of this, and they need to be thinking about ways to plan, because you do have to plan. You can't, you can't just let things happen. It's like in your own lives. Don't you have to plan what you're going to do on Wednesday next week and what you're going to do? I mean, we all have to plan all the time in our lives. And it seems to me that this is something that's very serious. You certainly present the case rather well, because just the numbers alone are staggering.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
a 35% total of senior population in 2030. That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, 35%.
And
We're
that's
almost getting to
just
half.
the people living here now. That doesn't include people that move here like you did after you retired.
Right.
So there's bound to be more seniors, and we have to make this place attractive for seniors, and we need to offer the services so that they stay physically active and can give back to the town, which they've come to love and want to be here.
Also, one of the fastest growing fields for young people is healthcare.
Yes.
And we've
True.
always talked in East Hampton about, how can we keep our young people here? Well, one of the ways you keep your young people here is you have jobs in an area which is growing. And if East Hampton, if we didn't have to travel to Southampton for every single medical need, if we could actually get services here in East Hampton that were comparable to what we have to go up the island for, I'm sure that we would create a number of jobs around those needs. So we do have the prospect of increasing employment if we put in infrastructure for seniors. And this has been done in other communities in the United States with good effect. So I think it can be done here. We have the resources to do it. We discussed various models of how to do it. One of the ones that we looked at was how the Montauk Playhouse was put together, which is a public-private type of partnership. A nonprofit organization runs the facility. It's important that we have programs that can change, that don't stay in place, the same program forever, but where the senior population can have a direct influence on what's being offered. You need to have, really adequate recreational facilities. In Montauk, there's a gymnasium, and there's a number of exercise facilities. So, programs. The other aspect of this is volunteerism. Almost every successful senior center relies on volunteers, not paid people, but people who are retired, who then say, okay, I know something about computers, or I know something about music. I have some friends. I'm going to bring out my friend, and we're going to have a concert. How do we do that? Do we have a facility for that? So you get a group of people that are interested in something, that are retired, and they then become the volunteer group that organizes the event or offers the program. And we need a place where that can be done. And I think that, if this does get off the ground, everybody in this town will be very excited about the outcome.
I am already. I'm already figuring out, well, maybe I get them to offer some of writing classes because I do believe we have to also keep the mind as active as the body. It's very important and it's very important for people to be involved in life as it is, around them, rather than just, withdrawing and not becoming as connected to the world, which is very important for you as you age. It's, it's what keeps you young.
The current senior center offers a single meal a day in the morning, for lunch. Some other senior centers in other parts of the country offer more than one meal a day. Some of them do things like they have a breakfast club where people come in the morning and then they break off into their various activities. Some of them actually operate almost like restaurants. In East Hampton, we have a huge connection to agriculture, and we have a huge restaurant industry out here, and it would be possible for us to make incremental improvements into, you know, a community center with some kinds of food service facilities, someplace where you would want to go, where everybody would be attracted, where you could send your husband in the morning and to get together with the other guys, or where you could go because of various interests and meet people with similar interests. This is the type of facility which this community lacks right now. It's too dispersed, and we have an awful lot of talented people in this community, awful lot of resources that are available that could be brought to the table if there was a table to bring them to.
Wow, I just think this is terrific, really. This is actually even better than the way you presented it before the town board. You're really elaborating a bit more, and I really can see this as a terrific possibility. Well, we have to really all put our shoulders to the wheel and get this going.
Yes, we do. And we're counting on people here in the town and in the village to talk to those that are in the leadership to get this going and have it a big priority for the town to do something and just not sit back and think about it, but to actually do something, to make it a reality. And not just 15 years, but to do it now.
Have you picked out the site yet?
No, but...
Well, I think that's what you got to do next.
Well, we actually did discuss with the supervisors several different sites. And, you know, you're right, the site has to be picked out.
Yes, I think that's your first step, is to pick out a site that...
They have to appoint a committee that would look at different sites and what would be needed in the senior center. And we're hoping, he's, I think, working with people within the town government. And we recommended that not only they work with town officials, but community people too.
Sounds wonderful. I can't wait for you guys to get this thing going. I will be the first person there. Please offer some writing courses so I don't have to go to Southampton, please.
Thank you for